right, friends. Look, let's get started. I know that we've all been paying attention to what has been happening in Ukraine. I know that we have all been paying attention to what happened yesterday in Tel Aviv. And this morning, yet again, another moment of horror. I don't want to bring us down. I don't want to bring us down. We all can look to the news for all those headlines. And I've said countless times, my strength is not geopolitics. I'm not here to make political prognostication. I don't know more than the analysts do, than the politicians do, but I do know what our hearts feel, certainly what my heart feels. But I want to make sure that I don't lose the majesty of Shabbat HaGadol, the majesty of Shabbos, and the gift of Patricia's bat mitzvah, and the magical American moment of Supreme Court Justice elect, or elect might be the wrong word, but confirmed, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is a moment of grandeur that should not be overshadowed. Of course, there are so many things still happening, and I want to make sure that not only do we honor the new Supreme Court Justice who was just confirmed, who, please God, should lift up her voice and raise up so many voices in pursuit of more justice in the United States of America. It is also important for me to acknowledge that one of the places that I visited just 2 weeks ago in Poland was a train station where refugees from Ukraine were gathering. And there were at least 39 refugees killed in a train station in Ukraine by a missile from Russia. I cannot, in good faith, teach Torah or even speak without paying close attention to what's happening in the world and making sure that we keep our eyes wide open on the majesty of Justice Brown, on the tragedy that is ongoing in Ukraine, to the incredible heart and money and labor going into rebuilding the world and supporting all the refugees. I sat with the entire staff of UJA yesterday, hearing from colleagues who are in Budapest, who are in Poland, who just returned from Poland, who are on their way to Poland. All of the funds that we've allocated, you should know, we are carrying this message that the Torah teaches us with our bodies. And the work will simply be going on for a very long time. And because of the strength that we bring each other, and because of the groundedness that the Jewish calendar and Torah offer us, we will be strong enough to do what needs to be done. We will take the right moments to cry on each other's shoulders and to weep at the devastation in the world, but we will not slow down our efforts to rebuild it. Also, yesterday, as we were hearing testimony from colleagues on the ground doing the incredibly important work of supporting refugees, while we were meeting, we received reports of a shooting in Tel Aviv. Now, facts are still being assembled. It is clear that a terrorist with a gun opened fire, wounded at least a dozen, and killed 2 people whose names were Eitam Magini and Tomer Morad. May their memories be for a blessing. Eitam Magini had proposed to his girlfriend, then his fiancée, and this was the night before their engagement party. And his mother said, "Now we will be attending a funeral instead of a wedding." To say may their memories be for a blessing is simply not enough. It is simply not enough. And the kindness that we show each other in this community, and the justice we ache for and commit ourselves to pursuing in this world, can't bring him back. But I want to make sure that we hold these beautiful young faces in our eyes as we look at Torah and as we look at each other. I want to make sure that we see Shabbat HaGadol. We don't lose it because of our grief. The gift of Torah has been, as I've said countless times, the gift of ritual, like Seder, like Shabbat HaGadol, like Shabbat itself, like lighting candles, like 9 o'clock in the morning with you all. These are rituals, sacred rituals, and they hold us safe in a shaky world. So friends, I don't want to only amplify the hardest of the headlines. I don't want to exacerbate the brokenness of our hearts. I want to allow Torah in to strengthen us as we stand in and for the world. I know I'm preaching literally to the converted. We're the helpers, as Mr. Rogers reminded us. Whenever you're in need, when you're sad and when you're lonely, look for the helpers. We are the helpers. Sometimes helpers need help. And so I'm so grateful for you. I cannot say it enough. For creating this community since March 18th of 2020, literally 2 years and a month ago. So I want to make sure that we combat the things that need to be fought, but we don't lose the joy of purposeful living, building our community. All of that is our obligation. So I want to say something about Shabbat HaGadol. This is the kernel of Torah that I want to share. I want to premise it with the words of the first female prime minister of Israel, Golda Meir. I have actually a little doll of her, always right in front of me here. That's Golda. This was a gift to me by my brother-in-law, Arsen Ostrovsky. He and my sister Tzira live in Tel Aviv. And before I saw the headlines, they WhatsApped me to tell me that they were safe. No one should need to do that. No one should need to do that. But our teacher, our friend Golda, this is so cute, isn't it? Our teacher Golda taught us that peace would come when the terrorists love their children more than they hate ours. It's a very harsh thing to say. Very harsh thing to say, but it's very true. And so what I want to make sure is that we pay attention to the truth of that statement, because terrorism is dehumanization. We know what that looks like on a genocidal scale. We're seeing that on what the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, is saying. He's using the word genocide to describe the Russian attack on Ukraine. We can debate whether or not it fits into the exact definition of genocide, but mass murder, certainly. It is the dehumanization of the other. Now, what does that have to do with Shabbat HaGadol? What does that have to do with Shabbat HaGadol? Which literally translates as the Great Shabbat. Shabbat HaGadol is always the Shabbat before Passover, before Pesach. Shabbat HaGadol is one of the 2 times that rabbis in the old country would speak. Rabbis didn't give sermons regularly. Rabbis spoke on Shabbat HaGadol to remind everyone how to keep kosher for Passover, and on Shabbat Shuvah, calling us to repent before Yom Kippur. Obviously, those are priority moments in the Jewish calendar. But how did Shabbat HaGadol get its name? Well, because we read a very special section of the prophets called the Haftorah on Shabbat HaGadol. It's from the book of Malachi. And the verse is a beautiful one if you read only some of it. Hine anochi sholech lachem et Eliyahu hanavi. Behold, I'm sending you Elijah the prophet. Lifnei vo yom Adonai, before the coming of the day of God. Hagadol v'hanorah, the great and the, you could say, awesome or awful or terrifying. Norah is yirah, that's awe. V'heshiv levavot al banim, what makes it so great? That the hearts of the children would return to the parents. V'lev banim al avotam. First, the hearts of the parents would return to the children, and the hearts of the children would return to their parents. But then the verse continues to talk about how in order for that day to happen, those others, meaning not Israelites, in our modern vernacular, not Jews, would God would take vengeance on them for what they did to us. And I know that impulse, I really do. I had a moment I don't talk about often. On the day of 9/11, I was in New York City, and I could talk a lot about those experiences, and I do, and I will another time. But that afternoon in Manhattan, I was a senior rabbinical student at JTS, and someone asked me to lead Mincha, the afternoon prayers. And we do full repetition, or we did then. of the central prayer, the Amidah. And I did. And there's one paragraph of the Amidah that I never really said out loud. It's V'lam al shnim al tikva. For those who wish us harm, may they have no hope. It doesn't feel authentic to my understanding of holiness or of Judaism. It's in there, so I say it. I try to re-understand it. There's a lot of history to the paragraph. But for the first time in my life, I shouted those words. Get them back, God. And I know that feeling. And I'm looking at images on my other screen while I'm teaching right now of the streets of Tel Aviv, an impromptu memorial, parents of Eitam and Tomer. I'm looking at those images, broken glass in Tel Aviv. And I have that feeling, I really do. But that's not the way the world will get better. And I want to hold on to the humanity that binds one person to the next. I know that peace will come when everybody loves their children more than they hate anybody else. And in order for that to happen, I can't amplify the nascent hatred and anger that this generates. We have to protect ourselves. And Israel has endured so many attacks over the last 2 weeks. These were 13 human beings, including Eitam and Tomer, who have been murdered by terrorists over the last 2 weeks. And Israel will respond with strength. We will be stronger than ever. We will build our world faster than anyone can tear it down. That is true in Tel Aviv. That is true in Ukraine. That is true here in New York, where we are not slowing down our commitment to feeding and housing and raising the dignity and the Jewish continuity. All of the things we care about, we will tend to. I don't think we can spend any energy on hatred. And the ancient world, in our Haftorah, is reflected in the idea that in order for us to be okay, they won't be. That's not how the world will get better. It will really be a Gadol day, a great day, when everyone is okay. Hine anochi sholeach lachem. Behold, I am sending to you Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. You might know the tradition on Pesach that we open the door for Elijah. You might not know that there's a traditional paragraph that calls upon God, Shvoch et chamatcha al hagoyim. Pour out your anger, your vengeance upon the nations who have hurt us, basically, is what we're saying. Hurt them back. And some of us just won't say that. I won't say that. I won't say that. I don't want that. I don't want them to hurt. And the closest I can come to wrapping my head around the world that, of course, doesn't make sense historically, but could be, is standing in Poland, watching Polish civilians welcome in Ukrainian refugees they don't know into their own homes, where 80 years ago, ancestors of those Polish people murdered my ancestors too. I can't make sense of it. But a world where we just take turns hurting each other is not worthy of our prayers. A world that has an end to violence. A world where people can sit under their fig tree and no one shall make them afraid. That is Gadol. That is great. V'heshiv levavot al banim. That's when God will return the hearts of the parents to the children. V'lev banim al avotam. And the hearts of their children back to their parents. Our hearts should be whole. Our hearts should be intact. Is it easy to hate? Yes. Is it easy to wish vengeance? Yes. Is that the way the world gets better? No. No. So I'm going to ask you to open your hearts and to pray. Not only for the families of Eitam and Tomer, not only for the 39 souls, at least, that have been lost in a missile attack on a Ukrainian train station, not only for the millions of internal refugees in Ukraine, but for the majestic work that lies ahead for Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, for the majestic work that is being done by countless lay leaders on the ground In Ukraine, I learned, JCCs and Chabad houses that are receiving Pesach food from Reform shuls in Westchester are holding seders. There's going to be magic coming up, despite, in the face of, louder than, greater than any of the destruction. We are going to continue showing up, as Pirkei Avot says, b'makom she'ein anashim, where people are not being people, hishtadel liot ish, work to be a person. So in the face of this terrible stuff, you and I are called to be even more human than before, because as Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel taught, to be only human is to be less than human. So I just want to encourage us, and of course I'm talking to myself too, to not lose hope. Beautiful things are happening in this world. Beautiful people are being born in this world. And in the name of those beautiful people who have left this world and been taken too soon, may we redouble our efforts to rebuild faster than anyone can destroy. We have it in our ability. We have that strength. We have each other, and we can do so much good. So please don't close your eyes. Don't ignore, don't become numb. None of this is okay. But some of the work that's being done in this world today, in your name and by us as a community, is so praiseworthy. On this Shabbat HaGadol, yes, I hope that you have a kosher Pesach. Of course I want that. I hope you have a joyful Pesach. But I ask us to remember that what will make this Shabbat Gadol, what will make this Shabbat great, is if you and I remember that everyone deserves the rest of Shabbat. Everyone deserves the replenishment of Shabbat. And by everyone, I mean everyone. Everyone. God doesn't know borders. Our hearts shouldn't either. May we go into Shabbat open-eyed, open-hearted, ready to comfort each other, ready to rebuild, prepared for the work ahead. Shabbat is all about replenishment and restart. Pesach next week is all about freedom. But until everyone can have the gift of Shabbos, and until everyone can have the freedom Pesach celebrates, these festivals are about extending their message, not only receiving it. Let's go into Shabbat a little bit more ready. Not calm, but more ready. There's a song to those words that I recited from the end of the Haftorah. I don't really remember the chords, but I'm going to try anyway. These are the words, "Behold, I'm sending to you Elijah the prophet. Hinei anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu hanavi lifnei vo yom Hashem hagadol ve'hanora. Hinei anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu hanavi lifnei vo yom Hashem hagadol ve'hanora. Heishim levavot albani ve'levani malavotam. Heishim levavot albani ve'levani malavotam. Hinei anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu hanavi lifnei vo yom Hashem Good Shabbos, friends. See you on Monday. Take care.